now.
There's so many times in life where you just need to pivot. And it's sometimes things happen for whatever reasons. But the true things and knowing your own power in your life is being able to, when something doesn't go right, how do we move forward and just pivot? Well, watch us. Welcome to Let's Get Real. Today, that's exactly what we're going to do. My name is Glenda Kroll, and I am one of your hosts today. And my other partner here is?
Hey, I'm Nicole Harvick, and I have to interrupt for a second because our guest says he doesn't have a link.
Oh, okay. We will keep him talking as we will get him the copy of the link because that's crazy.
What we do. You know, and one of the things I want to tell you about, Glenda, is resilience. Because we're so resilient that your volume is very low. My picture is very dark, but we're going ahead. We're going ahead. Okay, what do you want to talk about? Throw something in chat, LMNOP. But it's just like, sometimes you just know you have to do that. And that's what we're doing today.
Life is about, when things happen, is about pivoting. It's about, somebody asked me the other day, of what do you do when life doesn't go the way you want it? Well, you know what? Does life ever go the way we want it?
Never.
But instead of hitting the panic button, let's talk about this for a second, as we hopefully that our guest will appear today. What we need to do is we need to stand back. Life taught me these great lessons. You stand back and catch your breath and breathe for a second. Even if somebody is talking to you and you don't like what they're saying, doesn't mean that you owe them an explanation or you have to say something right away. Breathe and think for a moment and then come back with what you got to say or pivot with what you got to do. Trust yourself. Too many times in life, we don't trust ourselves. And here's the thing. If we learn to trust ourselves just that one little bit, life changes. And just
absolutely
that, right? It makes life so much different when we can just trust on who we are. So today,
and I want to say one of the things that I really love about that statement is just trusting who we are. I didn't used to. And now as I've, that's part of confidence. That's part of learning. That's part of becoming. And as I look back, what you said is I finally trust who I am. I trust my abilities and I trust what I can do. And it's like, why panic? And why get scared? That fear is what stopped us before. So we're not going to let it stop us now.
But not everybody thinks that way. So just
True.
Recently, I posted a post on my Facebook page and asked people if they could, and if there was one thing in their life that they would like to do, but were too scared to do it, what would it be? And one of the people responded, of just being me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Take that in, okay? If we can't be who we are, who we were born to be by just being ourselves, then what are we?
And that makes me sad.
Me too.
Because that's a person that has to contort or twist around who they think they should be to appease someone that they might not even know, or they might not care about, or that might not care about them.
It's a fact that sometimes in life we sit back and we feel that we're being judged, and that judgment can ruin your life. So if we can stop worrying of what everyone else is saying, because all we're doing in our own minds is thinking that we're being judged. Not necessarily are we being judged, but we think that way. And if we can just step back for a moment and say, does it really matter?
Exactly. And do you care more about what someone thinks of you than who you actually are? And that was a big lesson for me, Glenda, and take nothing personally from the 4 agreements. That's the one I always go back to. All 4 agreements were great, but take nothing personally is my go-to. We're not meant to have everyone like us, just as we don't resonate with certain people. Not that I like or dislike them, but there's nothing in common, with who I am. But I'm not going to morph into someone either they think I should be or they want me to be. It's just like we go our separate ways.
So we have a wonderful guest that is just showing up. And, we can talk about this in that same light, but actually let's, according to one of the blessings that he's been given to be helping children and being the leader is what we really all need to do, because it's not what we say that really matters in life. It's what we do that really does make the difference in life. And I know all through my life I've always said that, and I've always felt that with my children as they watched me, because people have a lot of things that they talk about, but not necessarily do they actually do. But this gentleman does that all. So Nicole, would you kindly introduce our gentleman today?
I would love to. And this gentleman is dedicated to professional growth. And I think that's so important. He holds a child care administrator license in the beautiful state of Texas, where I just got back from last week. He is a member of the Texas Network of Youth Services. And he and his wife, Talita, have been members of Cal Farley's Boy Ranch since 1997. And I think these are the kind of leaders that we need, who can help children understand they get to be who they are, not who they think someone wants them to be. So let's welcome Adrian Jackson to our stage.
Hello, Mr. Jackson.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Man, I was worried about my technology because I ain't technology savvy, and it all worked. So I've been excited about this podcast since yesterday. I seen the notification popped up, and I was like, "Oh, I got it," but I was on the wrong date. So I am so thrilled. I've been watching you guys since we have had our been emailing and texting back and forth, and I love your show, and I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today.
Well, we're going to be talking about you.
You are the main man today.
And we're so blessed to have you come here and join us today, because you're doing one of the most essential things in life. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart, because everything in life starts with our children.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a very much of a believer. I'm a family person, and when we shed out light and love, I believe that's what we get back. And I believe that that's not happening enough, and it has to start from the right from the beginning.
Yes, ma'am.
So welcome, and thank you very much for joining us today. And Adrian, can you start by just sort of telling us your story, how you got into this, and give us a little bit of background of what you're doing?
Well, it was totally by accident. I'm a young husband. I got married really young. My wife and we married right after I graduated from junior college. I was a college athlete. So I got married at around 18 years old.
Wow.
My wife and I continued our education in my athletic career at Oklahoma Panhandle State in Goodwill, Oklahoma. My wife, my degree is in business, and my wife's degree is in psychology. So when we got ready to graduate from college, I said, she came here watching me play sports. I've got our education. We're going to go follow her career path. So we were in Amarillo. We came by Cal Farley's town office, And I said, why don't you go in there and apply, be a case manager, you know? So she went in, I sat in the car, and the recruiter kept coming out and said, would you guys be willing to be house parents? I said, absolutely no. No, I'm 20. And by this point, I'm 22 years old. You know, no, I'm gonna go do something in business, you know? And she just kept coming. So my wife completed the application. We go back to Oklahoma. And they just kept calling about being house parents. So we finally said in December of 1996, we said yes. We will look at it. So we drive to the campus, and it's north of Amarillo, and it is centered on the Canadian River Valley. And it's a very beautiful campus out here, very beautiful. And it's large. It's one of the largest facilities in Texas. And so we went through the application process, met with other house parents, and in January of 1997, my wife and I became house parents. My goal was, once my wife got going in her career, I was going to leave and go do something in my career. Also, at that time, I started being a professional bird dog trainer. So that's the other path. So I have actually maintained 2 careers for almost 28 years.
Wow.
And so I started training bird dogs about that time. And I kept thinking, okay, at any time now, every year going by, I'm going to go do that or go do something else. And I just fell in love with the work. And so we stayed house parents for 6 months. My wife became a caseworker, just like the plan. And then I was a single assistant. And I said, okay, at the 1 year mark, I'm going to go do something in business. 1 year mark came, they asked me to go to the structured home. I said, okay, I'll go do that. And then I'll go do something in business. And so I went to the structured home. That's when I started receiving training. When I get to the structured home. So 1 year later, now I'm getting training. I got a supervisor now that's committed to teaching us how to work with at-risk youth. I'm getting some education. And now this stuff is getting fun. Like, it's getting so much fun. And so next thing you know, I just kept getting promoted, kept gaining knowledge about working with at-risk youth, kept getting promoted, and they sending me off to get trainings from other facilities and other organizations, and just keep having success with youth. And then next, I look up and I'm an assistant administrator.
Wow.
I was like, okay, that was really cool. And and now I get to impact the adults, the organization. And so I'm currently now the vice president of Home Life. We have, because of staffing shortage, we have only 15 of the 26 homes open. We got about 100 kids on campus, which our capacity is about our capacity actually is 400. We would like to have right around 250 or so. And right now we have 42 staff. We like to be around 81. So very large facility. We self-contained. We are a nonprofit. We don't take money from the state. We operate on donations, and we've been around. This is our 80th rodeo.
Wow.
It's coming up on Saturday. And we've done some very unique stuff out here. So, and worked with, I can't even give you a count of how many kids that I've touched, the lives my wife and I've touched and the staff have touched out here, just in our time working 27 and a half years out here.
Now, I have a quick question. Is a house parent, would that be the same as a foster parent?
Very similar, yes.
Okay.
Except the homes are all on our facility. And our homes are very large homes. They were donated by organizations or individuals. So the home name has whoever donated the home. And then that home has 2 apartments connected to it. So 2 apartments that is 3 bedroom, 2 bath. That's where the staff live. And they can live there full time. They don't, when they're off duty, that's still their house. Mm-hmm. And then the remaining part of the house is the kitchen and the bedrooms for the kids. And right now we're in a remodel where we remodeling the homes where the kids have single rooms.
Oh, wow.
Single rooms, single bathrooms. Very, very beautiful. A lot of people come to our campus to see. But yes, ma'am, the house parent, we take both singles and couples now. So
wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, who are the children that are that you're working with?
Ma'am, I missed that question. Can you
How old are the children that you're working with?
So we do have the ability to take from 5 years old and up to 17 graduation and alumni support. We rarely take kids that young without them being part of a sibling group. We are not the manager conservators of the home, of the kids. The kids' parents are their manager conservator. They can pull the kids anytime that they want to. The kids have visits with their parents. We encourage the parents to come to campus. And also, so our school, which is the most unique ever, our school, Boys Ranch High School, is a public school that's on our campus for our kids. So it operates like every other school in Texas, but except it serves our kids on our campus. The staff kids can't attend. So my son does attend Boys Ranch High School. But it's a public school, so they can do credit recovery. They participate in all Texas UIL sports. We have several kids who went on to be college athletes. And now we have a huge STEM program. And this rocket stuff is really cool. If you go to Cal Farley YouTube page, you're going to see some really cool rocket stuff. We have our own airspace. So our kids are making their own rockets. And some of the collegiate programs come here and they see a fifth grader making a carbon fiber rocket that's 16 foot tall, making their own rocket fuel, building their own rocket engines. And so it's just crazy amazing. When people come to visit me, I take them over there to see that stuff. I was like, you got to go see that stuff. And you guys are always encouraged to visit if you're in Texas again.
Okay. I go out there every once in a while. Yeah. How did the children come to your home if the parents are still overseeing them?
The parents place their kids here. So the kids are not court ordered. So the parents, most by word of mouth, or we do some advertisements. And because we also do mail outs, and we've been around for so long, so most times it's referral, word of mouth. But people hear about Cal Farley, they go to our website, calfarley.org, they read about us, and they inquire, they come visit. We do a lot of visits. People stop and visit a lot and want to see the campus. And then also we've been around so long and with so many kids. Actually, I've had 2 generations that I've worked with.
Wow, I love that.
So where a grandmother, a really amazing grandmother, she raised her grandkids and she placed them here. And then she ended up with a couple of her great grandkids. And we have them here. Amazing grandmother that we have. And that's really not a super unique story out here. You know.
So are these children that have had problems in their own lives or parents who have a disability of being able to raise their own children, need help to raise their children?
All of the above. So any scenario you can think of, we have a kid or kids to match that. So we do have, and it all sums up to some form of broken home, right? Of some form. But we do have kids that are raised by grandparents, kids that have their parents that financially maybe couldn't take care of them. Or we do have some kids that their needs were great and their parents couldn't meet their needs emotionally and socially. And then they asked us to assist in that. We do believe that the best option is for kids to be with their parents. And we're a really good second alternative to that.
And so who funds all of this? You said it's all done by private?
Yeah, we have an endowment, a big one. A big endowment, and we take 3%, 2.5% to 3% from our endowment. They got our development has to raise about 97% of our operating budget, which is close to $20-something million. We're a small city out here, so when I first started in 1997, we were almost fully self-contained. We have a cattle ranch. We're sitting at about 11,000 acres or so north of Amarillo. And so the beef that you eat is the beef that we raise. At one point, we milked our own cows. The cost of doing that was high. And of course, the eggs that you ate was out of our chicken house that produced large scale eggs for us. The cost has changed a lot of that, just the cost of doing that. But that was amazing to experience that. So I'm glad that I've worked at Cal Farley to experience that. But our chief operation officer is like a city manager. They have to manage the sewage, the building facilities, and the gas. And so they operate just like a city manager. We have our own post office and bank, etc.
Wow.
Yes.
I know. We're both like, what? I need to come see this.
It's sometimes it's crazy that a parent would come bring their kid out here and it's like, you know what? What if I just come to work and I just raise my kids out here? So,
it's a great idea.
yeah.
And I'm assuming the children have to be responsible for themselves
Yes.
as well.
Yes. So we have what we call an experiential learning program, which is very similar to a vocational skills program, where every facet of the program kids learn how to do, every piece of it. So mostly every job that you see staff doing, there's a kid they are a group of kids that they're teaching this, and they connected that. That's why we call it experiential learning program. They connected it to the Texas Education Knowledge and Skills, so the kids can walk away with a portfolio of things that they have learned here in vocational skills. And so that's really unique.
And it's so important. I remember years ago, we used to have schools like that. I'm from Toronto, and I'm coming to you today from Toronto. And we used to have programs like that, or schools that were set up with shops and stores and teaching the kids, because, you know, some kids who weren't able to go on to universities and to that level, but everybody had. So I'm a big advocate of teaching people, no matter what your level is, to even your skills of learning how to support yourself. You know, I'm meaning supporting yourself as learning how to clean a toilet, wash the floors, make yourself something to eat. Those skills are essential skills. And, you know, I find that children, especially children who live in a very higher scale family, don't tend to know how to do.
Exactly.
And it's very shameful. Like, I believe that it's really sad when you see an adult who doesn't know how to, you know, do his own laundry, for instance. You know, it's pretty sad that they've been held back in that respect, because we need just life skills is what's really needed.
Yes. And everybody's job around here is to teach kids life skills, even though there's a department that's called life skills. Yeah. It's all of our job, not just it's the house parents' job, it's the administrator's job, it's the case management job. It's all our job to also teach life skills. But there's some groups of people that there's their focus, right? Their focus is ensuring that these kids get their driver's license, ensuring that these kids learn how to change tires on their vehicle, ensuring these kids, our kids have a banking system where they have checks and debit cards.
I love that.
We try to focus on, and that piece has been since I've been here. That piece has existed in when I came in 1997 and beyond. That they used to have the board insurance checks, and at one point they had the board insurance driver's license, where you had to go through a process where you got taught how to drive, and you got to start driving around campus with an adult before you were able to get your Texas like driver's license. And so, but we do like to ensure that kids get their driver's license while they're here. We like them to leave if they're a senior. They leave with a debit card from the money that they have earned from their allowance, because they get allowance. We give all kids allowances, and now the scale of the allowance depends on a couple of things. One is your program engagement. So if you are engulfed into the program, engaged in activities, you taking care of business at home, you are invested in the community, your allowance is higher. But every kid gets a base allowance, though. And then half of that allowance go into their savings account, half of their allowance go into their checking account. So,
and you know, they don't teach this at our schools. They don't teach responsibility like this. Now they did, of course, I'm, you know, much, much older, but I had, you know, a bank account when I was very young that I would save for. But these are just, to me, basic skills you should know before you walk out of that door saying I'm on my own. Yes. You know, right down to understanding that eggs don't just miraculously show up at the grocery store.
Right. Yes. You know? Yes.
So why aren't the other school systems doing this?
It's expensive. I mean, if you get right down to it, now that I'm involved in in organizations all over the state. And because I have a child care minister's license, you always have an opportunity to get a job. But then when I look at resources, yeah, I'm going to be here, because one of the things that's a philosophy of Cal Farley is if there is a need that a kid has, we're going to try to meet it. And so if they have something that they enjoy doing, they have an interest, we're going to enjoy meeting it. And the money part is not in the way.
Right. Are they encouraged to do volunteer work outside of that community?
It is a little bit challenging. So let me ask you two ways. I think you're asking me, do our kids get to volunteer?
Right.
Yes, our kids do. And also sometimes it's connected to things that the staff is also involved in. I gave you one example. I'm in the 101 Elite Men. It's a mentoring program in Amarillo, and we help them serving the young people in Amarillo. And there are events that sometimes I take our kids to go to those events, like the Northside Toy Drive, different stuff like that. I will take the kids there to go participate and be a part. There's a camp that they run. I took some of our older kids to go mentor at that camp, that summer camp. And so, yes, and then there's other areas like that where our kids go and attend. They've been there's a fairly really nice gala. Our kids are the ushers too, and they go and participate in those galas and stuff like that. Yes, ma'am. They go do Habitat Humanity.
Yeah.
At one point, they went on mission trips. We haven't brought that back. They were in Mexico. They used to go to Mexico and do mission trips. That got stopped. Did COVID stop it? COVID might have stopped it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Prior to that, and we just have not done that. Sometimes you got to be like careful with kids in care, what you go do with them, and
Sure.
you got to always access risk because there are kids in care, like, so you don't want to put them in. You want to give them a wholesome experience, but you got to really try to mitigate the risk, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Well, absolutely. The most important thing out there is for the children to be learning, but at the same time protected that they're not in any form of danger.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
So, it's a responsibility that I'm sure that to be in this position that you are, that you have to hold on pretty tightly.
Yeah, you got to keep your eyes going what the kids are exposed to, who they're exposed to.
Right.
And like that's why we have so much in program, and which I really like. So there's a lot of things that's sponsored and funded by us that's similar to things that happens in the community, in the Amarillo community or surrounding community. But it's our staff who's background checked, is our supervisor who's monitoring risk, and it's our funding. So, it's a lot of that is just mitigating risk. There's other facilities that has to do that because they may not have the funding or the staff resources. And kudos that, and I appreciate people want to give kids in placement, kids in care, normal experiences, because you have to, right? Just because a kid live in placement don't mean they should miss out. And so that's one reason I kind of like about what has been built here. Our founder had the forethought to doing some things that I bet took a lot of energy to put in place, like have a public school in the middle of a facility. We have our own legislation on our school board that is appointed and not elected. I imagine that took a lot of work within the high levels of Texas to get done. The forethought to have done that is amazing. And other things that they have done, to be able to have thought about, hey, we rather do this. Hey, that was amazing forethought, especially in the times we live in now, to be able to protect our kids and offer our kids opportunities that if they didn't create that way back then, there would be almost impossible to create that now. I couldn't imagine trying to go to get some legislation now, trying to get a public school on a facility without a taxing body.
Well, I think yes, because this society has come into a sort of disarray more than anything as time
Yeah.
goes on. You would
Yeah.
think that we would be coming better with the times, but we don't seem to be. We seem to be more falling apart.
Yes.
So are these kids, and so they're all of different ages,
Yes.
and so are they pulled together so that it's kind of like a family?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. So our kids live in community. So it's about between 6 and 10 kids per home right now of similar age. So there's not a huge age gap. So we're broken into 4 communities: pre-adolescent girls, pre-adolescent boys, adolescent girls, adolescent boys. So back when I first started, we had the range. You had some pre-ads and adolescents in the same home. We had 17 kids when my wife and I were house parents. We don't have that right now. We don't have
That's
that.
a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Handle my 2.
No, it was. I didn't know no different. So didn't seem like a lot. But now looking back at it now, like, oh yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
How did I do that?
And then the staff, like when you apply here, we ask you what community you prefer. And some people say, I think I work better with adolescent girls. So we put them in that community. And then sometimes people get here and they thinking, oh, I want the pre-ads, and realize I don't have the energy for pre-ads. I want them adolescent kids are busy. They in sports, they at work, they in activities, they in one-act play. Hey, I want that. Like that's my energy level. So sometimes people get here and say they may change and say, okay, I'd rather this community than this community. And that's a fair thing to do. But it's broken into 4 communities. And the cutoff is the pre-adolescents, when they get about 13 and a half at the end of their 8th grade year, we move them to an adolescent home by that summer. So wow. That's something that we try to do. Unless the pre-adolescent is really mature in size and development, then we may move him in a younger adolescent home, like a home that's 14 and 15-year-olds. We may move them up a little bit early if they have their size and development right. And there's sometimes we'll hold a pre-adolescent back because his developmental level is below his chronological age. So even though he's 13 to 14, they're operating more as 11 or 12. So we would hold them back. And so we have a large childcare team that each home has. So it consists of the house parents, which is normally 2 sets, of house parents, 4 house parents, their supervisor, which we call a home life supervisor, an assistant administrator. So I have 2 of them. And so one of those, a casework supervisor. That's the core team. So at a minimum, it's almost 12 people that's constantly reviewing these young people. Also included in that is a home counselor. I forgot the home counselor.
Wow.
That's important. Yeah.
The counselor that's assigned to the home, she may work with some kids individually, but they're more like a consultant, a therapeutic consultant. So to make sure that we're meeting all the therapeutic needs of the youth. And so
I'm curious too. You've been doing this for quite some time.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about the kids that come back after they left. Tell me about the successes, what they remember about this. How are they now? What do they see for these kids that are in there? It's got to be a phenomenal way to start your life, to start it with knowledge and positivity.
And then at what point do they leave?
Yeah.
So there are some sad parts to this story and some really good parts. I want to tell it all because there's some significance in it. We call that paydays. And when you're a new staff, we say, and this work can get hard. It can get really hard. And I said, listen, stay long enough till you get your first payday. And your first payday is when a kid that has left come back and say thank you. Wow. Right. And so that I'm telling you, once you have that happen, there was no way that my 5-year goal, my 10-year goal was going to account, because it really is. I was 22, so my oldest kids are 48. I'm 50 now. So my oldest kids are 48, and 46, 47, so they look older than me, by the way. So, I'm gonna tell you some parts of a sad story, right? Because Cal Farley, and I do this training when I go to different conferences. I do a training called From an Old West Town to a Therapeutic Community. It's a training that my boss used to do, and now that I do. And what it talks about how the organization had to transition from being a program that was consequence based to a program that's therapeutic based. And one of the dividing points was that at several periods we had to change. They actually started changing right before I got to Boys Ranch. So when I got hired I actually got hired in 1996, December. I started in January of 1997. But in November of 1996, that's when they did away with corporal punishment. I didn't really know that because that's wasn't part of my interview, but I could feel the way the staff were different. Like I didn't have nothing to compare it to because I was fresh out of college with a business degree. I wasn't in, social work or anything like that. So I didn't have nothing to compare it to, but I could tell that there was some difference. Some things were odd. And the first couple of years, there were such control. Some of the kids, not all, they when they transitioned back into, you can call it the real world, but away from the campus, they did struggle a little bit more. Like they went like, sometimes when you feel like you held captive and you get free, you just do everything, all at one time. And so that's what it kind of looked like. And then about 2010 or so, we started doing some work with Dr. Bruce Perry. We were one of their NMT sites, and that's from the Child Trauma Academy down in Houston. And also we started doing some work with TBR, Dr. Karen Purvis. She has passed now, rest in peace, with the oh my gosh, trust-based and relational intervention from TCU. And so we started doing more trauma work. And the cool thing about Cal Far is we could afford it. Like some people want to do it, they just can't pay that money to have the people do it. So we made that investment to do it. And now when the kids leave, right, so much better. Now, I always tell people this, right? Because now we give the kids more opportunities to explore here on campus where it's protected. It's a 50-50 deal. 50-50, I'm make a good choice, 50-50, I'm not, right? That means that just like my kids, right? But that means that we have more work here on campus, but when they leave, they know how to make healthier decisions. So one of the paydays, Nicole, is some of my very, very best staff was kids.
Oh, yeah.
They're one of the most therapeutic staff. And to me, when I see that, right, it's like a proud papa moment when I'm sitting in meetings and I look over and see them. Like I always get like this little tear in my eye, right? Because one is a testimony to the change. That's why I said it's kind of a long story, but it's a testimony to the change. Like that change made them better parents.
Better everything.
From an organizational standpoint, right? From an organizational standpoint. That's not discounting all the amazing things alumni has done all throughout Boys Ranch history. And I always want to express this because we got some amazing alumni all the way through the Boys Ranch history, all the way through. But to me, when you see that in my era of being at Boys Ranch, to me, that says we made the right change. Like we made the right change because look what we got there, right? And so, our rodeo is coming up on Saturday. The alumni will be here, and it's, I can't wait. I can't wait.
You must have so much gratitude in your heart to have, when they first approached you at 22, and I got to say, as I reflect back on me at 22, that was a huge responsibility. And now you're sitting here talking about all the lives you have changed and affected. How does that feel? Well,
I tell you, when I got asked to write the chapter in Impact and Influence Volume 8, I'm a reflective person anyway, right? If I have on my long, hard days at work, after the end of the day, I go get on one of my horses, I ride down the Canadian River, and I just reflect to that full day. And then, as you get older, you reflect back on life and It happens all the time, right? I cry more than I've ever cried in my entire life. I told my friend, I don't know about this turning 50 stuff. Like
wait till you go another 10 years.
Yeah.
Right?
We won't talk about that though, Glenda.
Yeah, that's for a whole nother show.
We'll get back with you in 10 years.
But one of the things in writing that book, I reflected on the things that my parents instilled on me, in me and my brothers and sisters. I grew up in the housing projects in Lake Charles, Louisiana. My parents, my mom had a GED. My dad didn't complete the 4th grade, but I had some amazing parents. And I can recall very vividly how my parents helped people in the community. I recall, when we would travel to Houston to see relatives, people would break down on the road. My dad was stopping. He was stopping and helping them. My dad was also a plumber, and when people couldn't pay, it wasn't that big of a deal. We still did the job.
Adrian, I just said at the beginning of the show, it's what you do. It's not always what you say.
Exactly.
And that's what teaches children. But I'm really amazed of your program because our schools, our society does not give in to children that your society is doing. You sound like you're giving such a well-rounded program, and that those children have more than one teacher that are helping to form them. And wow, your school and your whole society there that these children are being brought up, or you turn around and maybe they didn't start out being lucky, but they certainly did turn around, having such incredible fortune to come into this.
100%, and I got to watch this for 27 years, almost 28 years, and hopefully I got 5 or 6 more left in me.
Oh, you do. Your chronological age is 50.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, that's it, right? Hey, I am getting tired. I ain't gonna lie to you.
It's all in the mind. Just keep looking after your body and your soul.
Well, it's there's things I've learned along the way because being here so long and being in supervision for so long and growing leaders, when I was in school and going through management classes, that was geared to working with people that made widgets. It wasn't geared to working with people that work with people. When you supervise and you're a leader of people that work with people, that's not the same kind of leadership. Because the way you treat your staff is how they're going to treat the people that they serve. And if you don't, if I don't have patience and forgiveness, then they can't have patience and forgiveness. And I would say this to in my meetings with the staff. I want y'all to treat me like I treat you. I'm going to treat you guys with kindness and respect, regardless of what the scenario we're talking about. I'm going to treat you that way. I'm going to be forgiving. And some days you got to go work on yourself, because sometimes I'm hot as a firecracker over something, but that's not how I'm going to interact with my staff.
But that's the part of life that you only learn with age.
Yes, ma'am.
That sometimes you do have to step back, and when you're young, you don't have that control over yourself as you do once you age. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty and the wisdom of what life gives you. Those knockdowns really do teach you that.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I like to, when I'm visiting with staff or training, I tell people, hey, this transition to who you see today wasn't easy. It wasn't like this. I had to learn some things. I had to have some supervision growing up.
But don't we all?
And in this field, like I was blessed with a couple of things. One, when I went to the structured home, having a really amazing supervisor that said, here's what we train and you're going to do it. Like it wasn't an opt in or opt out. You had to, if you were going to work for him and that's home, this is the training. And in fact, the training that he talked about, I now teach it, been teaching it since 2001. I'm in the video and the developer, we're tight. Larry Hampton, Satori Alternative Management Aggression. And in fact, that particular training is how I got in this space of being a vice president, and been able to de-escalate and work with kids and work with adults and become a better husband and become a better father, because this training also impacted all that. Like, so it's connected. I'm connected multiple ways. I love what I do, but it also made me a better person.
Yeah.
It made me a significantly better husband, And so, yeah, I'm very connected to what we do here. I love the changes, and nobody likes changes, and I love the changes, because I think that is necessary, and I'm looking forward to what new come up that we can use to impact kids' lives in a very positive and impactful way, to help them achieve being a very, very good citizen, because that's what we want. We want to just produce really good citizens,
and that's what our world needs more of.
Yes, ma'am.
Desperately.
And right, so when we give respect, when we give it, we expect that we should get it back. And I believe that. I remember when my son was a little boy, he would say about people, sometimes he would say, well, they don't show me any respect, so why should I respect them? And and it came from the mouths of babes, and it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
We have to show respect to get it back, and it goes back and forth. But what you're doing in your school, again, I'm just so blown away, because it's what our world really needs to be. And our young people, and they matter.
Yes.
And, parents have to, unfortunately, with a lot of single parents out there, it's really hard to be a parent and to look after yours when you have to go out and earn a living.
Yeah. Another demographic that we see trends in and is parents that have adopted, both foreign and domestic, and those adoptions are struggling. And that is actually a big referral unit for us, is that scenario where somebody adopted a kid, and because what that kid experienced in utero doesn't make that easy.
Right. I was just going to say, you've got ancestral trauma that comes down that line. And oftentimes, if you don't know where it started, you have to really research how to fix it.
100%, ma'am. And so they just not ready for what they're going to get. A kid that's hard to soothe, that's difficult to self-regulate, and they're surprised, and then they feel guilty, and sometimes they wait a little long to seek help. But that is a huge referral source for us. We do have a lot of kids that come out of that environment, and we try to restore them, reconnect them, and work with the kid and the family. So we not only work with the kids, we work with the kid and the family. We just had Family Fun Day, where we invited the families to come. We did ropes course. We have a challenge course, so they got to do the zip line. We have we cook hamburgers out. The next time we have about 50 something horses. We're going to do big trail rides. We have an indoor swimming pool, have a large recreation center. And so we're going to have more family fun days, more times throughout the year. But we had our first one. We hadn't had one since COVID. So this is the first one coming back. We wanted to kind of keep it simple. And then they got to enjoy our football game. So that's that Friday night. So it was last Friday. So we had Family Fun Day.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It is. I love that you're out in nature with these kids to help them ground, to get the sun, to really get that good feel instead of sitting in a house on a little machine.
Yes, ma'am.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we have an adventure department that we go to Wheeler Peak and have Summit Wheeler Peak. And that's one of the departments I manage. That's actually where my office is, in the actual adventure, in the Dippo Activity Center, because I can get a window. The other offices at headquarters don't have windows. Right. So
you're that special guy.
I can hide out over here. Right. So anyway, we do a lot of stuff. We have canoeing and kayaking. We have several ponds, kids fish. Of course, I mentioned the challenge course. And then, we want those adventure people the young man that runs the venture department. I said, listen, I want you to take the kids out. That we go skiing. We have home trips to go skiing. The homes get they have a monthly budget just to do rec.
It's such a great education, just by all of this that you're doing. The world doesn't need more people with their nose in the books and learning to do the math that you'll never use in your life. Instead, getting out there and just going in nature and learning from that is the most incredible education.
Yes, ma'am. And learning is experiential. So,
and traveling and all the rest. But, what you're doing out there should be, they should be copying and pasting it all over the world, but throughout the US for sure. And even in Canada. What saddens me is there's so much money being spent for things that aren't doing anything. And what you're doing is just absolutely beautiful and remarkable.
Well, thank you. And I tell you what, it's just I tell people this all the time. I says, I'm going to retire when the fun is over. And
you'll be there forever.
Yeah, I'll be there forever, right? Yeah.
You're not retiring.
My years of service is not unique around here. There's a bunch of people with 37 years, 34 years.
That speaks so highly of that. Yeah. That speaks so highly of your program.
And I got house parents that's 20 plus years.
Wow.
I love it. And that's you're talking about giving some service, being a house parent for longer than 5 years is amazing. But when you get around 10, 15, 20 years, hey, that is solely God's work. Like, I mean, being a house parent that long.
Well, but you have such a community that's being like all of this goodness is being put into these children and adults, and that's the whole thing. It does take a community to bring up a family, to bring up children.
We call it professional parenting because it's not like I don't expect them to raise kids like I raised my kids because it was just my wife and I, right? Mm-hmm. But we actually raise kids that everybody has an involvement. And it has to have some similarities from home to home to home. There has to be some consistency from home to home to home. And so a lot of people get say-so over one group of kids under our policies and procedures because we want kids to be able to be touched by multiple adults. And if you look at the resources for children are healthy adults. And when you see children thrive, and I'll tell people, look at a kid that's thriving and count how many healthy adults that kid has. Now look at a kid that is struggling. He's going to be relationally deficit versus a kid that's achieving is going to be relational rich. And so one of your first interventions is if you see a kid struggling, try to find an adult to connect with that kid. And then that adult has a job to find other healthy adults and connect with that kid. And if you the minute you start building that kid adult connections, then you're going to see that kid get better. And you'll see that here. When the kid first come, they don't know anybody, right?
Yeah.
And the first people they learn is their house parent. Then they learn their caseworker. Then they learn the casework supervisor. Then they may start playing football or basketball or track. Then they got the coaches. Then they may have a struggle and they got a counselor. So next thing you know, a year later, this kid got 15, 16, 17 adults in this world, right? And it can continue to grow. If the kid is in more activities, the more adults. You get to school and he's impacted by his teacher. So you say at least 3 of his 10 teachers they're going to connect with. So now you count that, you had 20 staff. So that's how you build their ecology, especially if you're operating on that the resources for kids are healthy adults.
Well, you certainly did find the magic formula. And, again, kudos to you. And my hat goes off to a spectacular situation that you have. But as we're coming closer to the hour, and it's so sad because I've been enjoying this so much.
I did too. Thank you guys for having me, actually.
Oh, I just loved it. But I got to ask you, so there's a lot of people that are out there that are struggling with their children.
Mm-hmm.
It's the struggle is real.
Yes.
We're seeing it all on the streets. We're seeing it in the world wide. What one little bit of a tip that they can do maybe to help their own child?
Okay. I'm going to do two things. One, go to calfarley.org. And if you need a job, sign up. If you got a kid that needs some help, give us a call, because not only do we have the kids come live with us, we also offer referral services. Second is there's a ton of great books and videos for parents. One is The Connected Child by Dr. Karen Purvis and Dr. Cross. Very amazing read. And it's geared to parents. It's a very easy book to read. It's a very amazing book to read. And it's very insightful book to read. The other one is The Boy That Was Raised Like a Dog by Dr. Bruce Perry. It's a very amazing book to read. I know the title kind of throws you back a little bit. It did us too. And so that's one of the two books I recommend. The third book is The Kid Whisperer by Mark Fredo. That is the third. But there's a lot of resources, but those are easy to read. Is some of the books that we recommend. Second thing is find a community of other parents that's going through similar, right? So, because the one thing I see when parents are struggling with a kid is that they sometimes are absent of their support system. You know, and based on the communities, I've known of several scenarios where parents were struggling with a kid, and the kid was really acting out, and the church says, "Hey, until y'all get that kid straightened out, y'all can't come to church here." And sometimes they get excluded by their own parents and family members. So sometimes parents lose their support system, and then that makes it that much harder. Like, right, that much harder. The other thing, my last thing is you got to take care of the stuff that's in your world in order to take care of young people too. And so sometimes parents got to look deep, go to counseling, take care of some of the stuff, you know, their frustration. I call it, that's part of frustration management. In order to deal with somebody, you know, that's challenging, you got to deal with things that make you frustrated. And sometimes it's what's in your backpack.
Yep.
Right. It's the stuff that's in your backpack makes it hard to be tolerant of other people. Right. And so, yeah, I think that they got to do, that's part of self-care, is taking care of your own mental and emotional. So I see that a lot where the parents, that kid is acting out and is tapping in to some of their own trauma that's unresolved, that's undealt with, and then making it more difficult to handle it appropriate. Like they don't have the tolerance, the empathy for it, and it makes it more difficult. So that's my short version. We could do a whole hour just on that.
Well, we'd love you to come back and we'd do a whole hour on the next thing. I just love the way you just empower the young people today, and just amazed by you. Yeah. And so I want to thank you so very much. I just want to put it out there. So if you are struggling, you know what, part of life is reaching out. And Adrian Jackson has a link under the video, and you can reach out and get some more information. I'm sure he will share some more tips with you. You know, don't hesitate. You know, it's a world that we have to be connected to one another. And he's the man.
I don't know about that.
He's the man.
It's a small part.
No, it's a large part. Don't underestimate what you're doing. But we never finish our program without our dear Nicole Harvick, who always tunes in to where she felt about today's show. Go for it.
And you know, there are so many key points in Adrian's visit here today. And I think that one of them for me is when you're talking about children, we see so many that are out of control today, that become these teenagers that can't control themselves onto adults. And what he pointed out about the parents making themselves healthy, you know, one of the things I know for sure is that a child is basically formed by the age of 7, based on how the parents talk to them, based on any trauma they have, or, you know, if you need to be very careful with your words with your children. You also, this children should be seen and not heard. Oh, no, 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 no. They are, a parent should be learning from their child because they still see the world with wonder. They see this world of endless possibilities. You know, they make those sandcastles, and to them, it's a palace. So why shouldn't we want to revert back a little bit to childhood, to bring that imagination back, and just realize that if we do move forth, we can do anything we want. And one thing I know for sure is we need so many Adrian Jacksons in our world to point that out, to be there, to help these children grow and flourish as they were meant to be when they came to this earth.
Beautifully said. Thank
Amazing.
you.
Thank you. I want to come out there and talk about forgiveness and mindset, Adrian.
Oh, you always welcome. Hey, just get a hold of me. And we always have people come out and speak to the kids.
I go to Texas a lot, and kind of the Dallas Mansfield area. But if you can make this kind of impact, who am I not to help?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
I would like to just
you let me know. We have apartments for you to stay in.
Wow.
We're gonna take care
I'll go pick up those eggs. I'll bring my basket.
Hey, we have baby goats too, so
Wow.
the miniature ones.
I do goat yoga.
If you're watching this, there has been such incredible information that has been shared. Please share this amongst other people. People need to see that our world can be changed, and it can be changed for the better. And it all starts with one person at a time. And it really helps when those people are at the beginning of life. But we're all here to help one another. So please share it. Adrian, thank you very much again for blessing our stage today. We are so grateful for you. And today, that's a wrap.
Thank you.